live Transitioning Humanitarians with Viki. Hi, Viki.
Hi, Asel. Hello, everyone.
Yes, so today, or this month rather, we want to talk about transitioning with families or family and transitioning and looking at all the questions that come up when we're wanting to do this together with our families or for the sake of creating families, right? So, in this regard, today we wanted to give you a bit of an overview of what are the things that come up or what are the questions that come up and how you could navigate around it. So, and then we will dive into each week as to maybe particular aspects of that decision making or how you're going through this. So I was just telling Vicky that the way that I have seen so far is that when we humanitarians make decisions as to whether to transition or how to transition, we end up most of the time like doing decisions based on these categories, and I will just highlight them for you. One is for the sake of the family. We tend to get so much of the what family needs, right? So for the sake of family, I need to just sacrifice or go through whatever the things I go through because the important is the family gets stability. That's like the major ways that we make decisions. Somewhat rare, but still we make decisions around for the sake of myself, and then we end up feeling like egoistic or selfish, and we shouldn't be doing it. And then that's where like a lot of beating up comes up. Or the third one is where I want to do it for the sake of my family and myself, but at the same time feeling like this will not work because it requires too much either stability of being in one location or not wanting to be in one location. So there are a lot of conflicting ideas come up when we do this type of decision, right? So that's why you can see that you may be able to locate yourself already in one of these three categories, and then we will be, of course, diving into it. So, Vicky, how would you say for you when you work with clients or yourself as well, right, in transitioning, how were like the predominant thoughts that made
Mhm.
the tip for you?
Yes, and apologies for the technical hiccup right
No
now.
problem.
So yes, indeed, all the scenarios that you are mentioning are very relevant, and I'm keep on hearing them as well. Either on one hand, a lot of the clients say, "Oh, I can't transition because this will destabilize my family," and so all the I don't want to say excuses, but a lot of the thought or a lot of the primary thinking goes into I can't do it because of my family, or the second way I need to transition because of my family. In both examples, what we are seeing is that what is my need is somehow being put as a secondary, whereby I would like to what I would like to encourage colleagues to really give, because sometimes I really feel we need to give ourselves permission to do things for ourselves. This is not to say that whether transitioning or not transitioning for the family might not be a priority for you, and this is of course understood because we are mostly talking about several people. But also I think it's important to equally important to decide what is good for me, because again, as we often ask the question, imagine that you stay several more years, or I don't know, maybe 5, 10 more years in a position where you are. What is going to be the consequence of your family staying mostly probably stuck in a place where you are? It's equally not going to be very good for the family. So what I would like to so my main thought here is really think about reasons why you want to do it for the family, but also for yourself. And if you feel, oh, this is selfish, I think here we need to look into really reasons why this is equally important, and give yourself literally permission to say it's equally important for me, and I will transition, or I will do what I wanted to do for both sides. So this I would be, let's say, this is a first point I wanted to mention, so to
Mhm.
speak. What are
Yeah.
your observations, Asel?
So I wanted to share my experience of how I did it, and And then also give another example from my client who's now in Jordan making similar decisions. So for myself, when I was making a decision, I wanted to do it for myself and my family, like the way you're saying. And one of the biggest thing that came up was that uh, I have several families back at home, depending on my financial stability, right? Meaning that I send them money every month. And and of course this question comes up, I think for many of us, is like, how do I support them while I'm wanting to explore something else for myself? Can I really do that? What if I fail doing it? What if they will be, then I will feel like I let go, like I let them down because I have two of my relatives studying and I'm responsible for their study fees as well, right? So what if I cannot afford that, then they will not be able to study and finish, and then I will feel guilty whole of my life that I didn't I wasn't there for them, I guess. These are the questions that came up when I was thinking about doing things for myself and for my family. And what I realized in that process is that I was really believing that whatever else I will pursue, it will not work, right? That's, I
Mhm.
think, one of the huge things that many of us have. And the other thing that I was also believing, that I can't really make it work myself. And then therefore I was just so focusing on how it won't work because of this, because of this, because of this. So I then at some point decided that I want to focus on how I will make it work and what are the skills, what are the abilities I need to have to make it work. So this is the thing that I focused, and then I was able to transition. Now, I also have a client who's now in Jordan. She's been working in the humanitarian world for 20 years, and she has three children and a husband, and they've been traveling with her the whole time in her international career, right? And one of the things that she made a decision, and I thought it was very maybe also wise in that scenario after having done this work for so long and also wanting to get a pension from the organization, right? She decided that how can I make my current situation as best as possible
Mhm.
so that it's not draining, it's not something that I hate every day and all the things, and then feeling like, oh, I have to do it just for my family, or I have to stick up because my family finally needs stability because her one of her daughters wants to finish school in that country finally, right? So that's why I think that's another strategy that also works very well, is how can we make our current situation as best
Mhm.
as possible for us individually, right? But also in terms of continuing certain stability for our family. So I would say that there is really no right or wrong answer, obviously, right? So you need to make decision for yourself, but I would love for you to also consider, if you believe that you can't really leave the place where you are now for whatever many reasons, I assume, consider how can you make your current situation as emotionally stable or emotionally nurturing or emotionally supporting you as possible, because oftentimes I think when we make transitioning decisions, we focus on the financial aspect of things, which
Mhm.
is very important, right? But I would also love to suggest, let's look at the emotional aspect of things as well, especially when we feel guilty for not spending time with our families, or maybe we feel guilty for not even being present, even if we're spending time with our families because of thinking about our work, because of worries about work or whatever is happening, right? So removing a lot of those unnecessary worries and draining energy could already help immensely, and trying to transition to that lifestyle would be maybe a good strategy. What would you say,
Yeah.
Viki?
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. And the word that popped up in my mind as you were saying it was also fulfilling. That we need to have some sort of fulfillment in whether it's private or professional. Very often, what I hear from people is that the work is maybe not so exciting for me, but I find a lot of fulfillment in having extra time with my family, etc. And if this is good enough for you, then it's perfect. What I would like to also mention, that this is exactly very important point that you're mentioning, that find a, if you decide for reasons that okay, maybe transitioning is not the best thing for all of us as we are as a family, and for me as well, then really finding a good place for yourself, where you find a balance, where you find a well-being, where you can function well, so that you can not only perform at your work, but obviously be a very so happy person for your family, of course, because the reverse might be very often the case, that I fear that I will not be able to provide for my family. And here we are talking about mostly breadwinners. That the aid work, in case aid workers are the breadwinners, that I can't afford, but I will stay miserable, and that will of course have a very negative effect on you, but also on the family. So this is a very important point, and really I can only reiterate that, as you're
Exactly.
saying.
I think one of the pictures that keep coming up to me, especially when I was making decision, I think the picture that came up a lot in my head is that I guess I didn't want to be this person who's so like successful in the external world, meaning like everyone else would see me and say, ah, she's successful because she has this career and this money or this thing and that thing, right? And then internally feeling like miserable and oh my god, I don't want to go home and sit in my empty chair and in my nice place, and then feeling like I'm not really being with my people that I want to, or I'm not really spending time the way I want to, or and then feeling like at work I'm not really creating the results that I would like to. I don't really see the results I would like to. Do you know what I mean? So I think this was like one of those things that I really had difficulty reconciling, meaning that I didn't want to be the person who's like having all the great things on the outside, but feeling inside all the shame, all the feeling of uh, like failing, or all the whatever the feelings that were going on in that time. I didn't want to have that feeling, right? Or I didn't want to like sugarcoat it for myself, justifying and saying everything's going to be okay. This is how life is. I didn't want to do that. And that's why at the time I felt like I needed to find a solution that fulfills me as a human being, like truly, but also creates the stability or the safety, whatever the things that I need and my family needs. So, and I think what could be very useful for you to think about is if like sacrificing, compromising, and all of this justifying, if they were not options, if you needed to find a decision or come with a decision that is good for you, like genuinely for your emotional well-being, and also good for your family financially and emotionally, what would that solution be? And I think challenging ourselves to go to that place, even if like theoretically at first, right? Because my thoughts, all of this were theoretical in the beginning. They weren't practical at all. But I think having that conversation, honest conversation with yourself, to have that theoretical conversation at least, and then start looking at what are the ways I can make this work. What what needs to happen for me to make it work? For instance, I realized one of the things is that I used to think, oh, my family needs a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't really afford that much of the money, right? And then getting down to okay, how much actually do they
Mm-hmm.
need? What are the numbers, right?
Yeah.
And I think this could be also helpful for you to think about. And if you really feel like that's not really what you can afford, then how can you make your current situation the way you want to, or similar or closer to what you want to? So there are different ways to work around it. But I think what happens oftentimes is that we just don't want to look at things. We don't want to look at things
Mm-hmm.
honestly, or we don't really want to like challenge ourselves. And then therefore we feel like, oh, it's too complicated, too hard. And then we don't do anything about it.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree with you that this is sometimes I hear this as well. Sort of, I can't transition because I won't be able to pull it through with my family, or it's too difficult, or I don't want to put my family into a risky situation. Which, of course, nobody wants to put his or her family in a risky situation, but without having done exactly the homework, without
Yeah,
really looking into what does it mean to look after my family. And here we are looking into also how very often transitioning also means transitioning into a different country, whether it is a country of your spouse or your country or a third country. So again, the considerations of what it means in that country, very often it is a country of one of the spouses, or if the spouses are from the same country, it might mean maybe also more resources, right? Access to grandparents, or access to schooling for or education for free, or other elements that maybe we have not considered before. So really it often requires, I would say, an interesting exercise that and as you, I think quite often we are mostly talking about financial resources, but not only financial resources, looking and digging deeper into what it really means financially, and what would it, and second thing I would like to mention also, what is my role in the family. We often think in terms of breadwinner, but actually in
mm,
every family system we as individuals play a certain role. So the question of what is my role today, am I happy with my role today, and what role would I like to be playing in the
yeah,
future of, and this is very crucial, because very often it comes down, I actually want to be more present with my family, I want to spend more time with my wife, husband, partner, kids, etc., grandparents, etc. So I think that there is, it's a financial question, but it's a much larger question of how I really want to live. So I would really
mm,
like to encourage, really, colleagues who are thinking about transitioning with families to really sit down and actually draft what would an ideal life look like, where I'm thinking about, etc. And sometimes really it might take several, sitting down and thinking, and pondering and brainstorming. And but I think it's an exciting exercise that really allows you to make your dreams come true, because this is where it all starts. If we don't allow ourselves even to think about it, then nothing is going to change. So I think really the first step, yes, think about it, dream about it, vision it, and then let's take step by step. And the step by step might be, and here I'm going a little bit into the second phase of, when I hear sometimes I can't afford it with my family. Well, let's park your family, don't do anything with the family, let's explore, or of what does it take for you to do this, of relocate from wherever you are to country where you want to go, and the job you want to, what does it take? Sometimes it may take additional a course, sometimes no, what is it that you're willing to do? So really a reflection on that. You don't have to, it's not necessary to do all these movements at the same time. You can do one movement in sort of professional thinking and advancing already on one hand, and then bring your family once you feel that situation is stable enough. So there are many options, just want to say, but I would like to encourage really people, just think about it, to talk to someone, dream, vision it. Don't just, sort of take the easy, I don't know if it's easy. Probably none of this is easy. It would be wrong to say, but don't take the step and say, "Oh no, this is not possible. I won't even go into that." Because,
yeah, exactly. And I think this brings me to a very interesting thing that I wanted to like share is that my thinking always was is that I wanted to be an example for my children if I ever have children, right? Or for whoever who's like in my family who's looking up and saying, ah, this is another way of living life, I guess, is I really wanted to be that example. And in the future as well, I was thinking that if I have children, I also want to always prioritize what I want as well as trying to see their needs as well. And that if that means moving in different places and living in different places, I'm wanting to do that as well because I want to be able to tell them later that I didn't sacrifice myself in order to create their stability, right? And I think that because my family, where my mom used to sacrifice a lot for us, and I feel like it's my now, I don't know, obligation or job to get a new ways of living life, different ways of living life, and of course she did what she were able to do back in the day. She had less resources than me, and thankfully I have more resources, so I want to use them, and not only like financial, but more like a mind abilities that we all have, and use that to live the life the way I want to, right? So that's why I think what you mentioned, Vicky, about not settling, I guess, for an easy road in quote, meaning that the one that doesn't take discussion or that one that doesn't take difficult decisions, maybe, right? Our brains so want to go to that route and say, oh, it's too hard. We
Yeah.
don't really want to do that because then it will bring up a lot of discussion in the family, and I'm not prepared for it. And we may want to then go to what is the easiest, where I just keep sacrificing my own interest for the sake of family, or vice versa. And what ends up happening is that they will eventually, those heavy discussions will come later as well, because then we're not happy with what we're doing, or someone in the family is not happy with how we're doing. And then eventually that discussion will come up anyway. So we may as well have that discussion when the time is right in terms of how we want to transition. And then however long it takes for that discussion to happen, and then have the decision as much as for the sake of everyone, as much as possible, right? Instead of for the sake of one or the other.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would like to also maybe inspire colleagues to think about in terms of non-negotiables, because
Mhm.
very often people, or very often you may say, I would like this and I would like that, and great, but we all know that we want this amount. No, in reality it always shrinks a little, and this is why I think it's really important to be really go down into what are my non-negotiables about my future and my family's future. And here, from here, you can start already drafting loads of things that you will say, okay, this is what I'm not going to compromise on for sure. Let's say, okay, all family being in, I think very often we hear all family being in one location. This is what I hear very often. We've done it, we've tried, we don't want ever to be there again. We will always be together, no separation of a family, right? This is your one negotiable. You're not separating family for 5 months here, etc. So what are the other non-negotiables, right? Loads of that, and I would really like to encourage not things that are good to have, nice to have, but what is the real core that you say, this we will never negotiate, this is a pillar, and this is always needs to be there. Equally
Mhm.
for your own professional life, does it concern when you transition, does it concern certain salary, does it concern certain responsibilities, what is it? Because sometimes you can say, okay, this is maybe not so super important, but this is important for me. So I would say
Yes.
another way of looking at transitioning together with your family.
Yes, absolutely. And I think some of the things that in that list could also be like, what are the feelings that are so important to you, right? Oftentimes, I think we think about being in integrity with ourselves, and that's so important. And as soon as we feel like we're not in integrity, we feel like we keep lying to ourselves, or we keep like disappointing ourselves. And that's not the feeling that we want to continue living our lives. And it doesn't last long, right? So that's bound to bring more frustrations for ourselves. Or someone else maybe has something like honesty, or that I want to actually be making a difference in whatever way, right? And how do I know that that's happening? So, whatever the feelings that I think for everyone, there is like core of, for me, it was always freedom, but maybe for you, something else. and not feeling that. I feel like we need to somehow give so much space to that feeling. And as soon as we suppress it, as soon as we override it, then problems start happening.
Yeah.
So that's why you could also have some of the non-negotiables is that I'm not going to be sacrificing in this particular way, right? I'm willing to do other things, but in this way, I'm not doing it. Or maybe you request your family members to assist you in this ways because this is so important for you, but maybe for someone it's not that important, right? So, for instance, for some family members, being in a particular country may not really make a difference, or not moving to that place is a very big deal. So you can always see, like, in your non-negotiable list, you can also say that why moving to this place is so important or not important. You can also get curious about those things. So anyway, I think what I really want to highlight from my experience and how I'm coaching my people is that what if there is really a way to make decisions where it can satisfy most of what you want as well as of your family, right? What if that scenario exists, even if at times it feels like it doesn't? What if that's the scenario that we can go for? And if that scenario exists, how would that look like? And or how do you want it to look like? And what are the things that you need to be doing to get ready for it? What discussions you need to have? What things you need to have for yourself? And then start creating that scenario instead of, oh, it's too difficult, or dismissing things, or just saying that it has to be what either this or that,
Mhm.
and then like denying yourself a lot of different possibilities.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a good thinking. I'm sometimes I hear when breadwinners or humanitarians are transitioning, is that my skills, and here it's a little bit more technical, but I hear sometimes, but I don't even know what job I would be looking into. Like maybe the job you are looking, you will be having or you are creating doesn't even have a name in your mind yet. So that by that I just want to say that. We don't know everything, and sometimes really putting these small elements, creating a mosaic, will really, the bits and pieces, it will create a mosaic that maybe you were not able to see before you have thought about all these elements in your thinking. So I think
Yes.
all of this is really important, and we encourage you to go into these places of exploration.
Yes. And I want to also, I don't know, stress how many of us humanitarians are, I think, idealists, or somewhat people would describe us, right? Idealists in the sense that we want to contribute to a better world, to justices in the world, and to, I don't know, alleviating suffering in the world. I think these are the reasons why we're in that space. And I would love for us to also use that spirit that we have to say that, yes, what if we're also those people for ourselves and for our families, right? So not only that we're doing that for other people or in the world, which is amazing, but what if we can have that spirit of idealism for ourselves to say, what if I don't want to be settling for where it's only this or that, right? What if I want to be settling for where it's me and my family as well? How would that look like? And how we can like start setting new examples, I guess, of how different way of living, where fulfillment, where all of our non-negotiables are in one place instead of, oh, we can't really have that or we can't have that,
Yeah,
and then keep being frustrating about those things. So that's why I think Viki and I always want to advocate, what if you expand and challenge your mindset in terms of what's possible,
yeah,
right? And then look at new ways of transitioning, new ways of living your life, new ways of experiencing
yeah.
life the way you want to. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else we may have missed, Viki?
I think there will be plenty of things to discuss in the weeks to come when we
Yeah.
are, addressing maybe deeper different elements of family and family members and transitioning.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Exactly. So we will be giving you examples of how different people are making decisions or going through this, right? And what are the challenges that come up in those places as well. But in the meantime, if you have any questions or you need coaching on this, please come over. We'd love to help you in this because we've done it, continue doing it.
Yes, indeed.
And yes, and I feel like we're all in the same uh, board of figuring things out. So that's why we're
Mhm.
happy to help. So thank you so much to you all and Vicky, and we'll see each other next Thursday.
Yes, thank you very much and see you next Thursday. Bye.
Bye.